Thanks so much, guys, especially our speakers, for coming today. I'm so excited to talk account abstraction because I need some education on it myself, in addition to many other things. So I'll do a bit of a quick intro here, and then maybe we can all hear from our speakers first about who's up here. So I'm Cool Horse Girl. I'm a Moonwell delegate. I work across the ecosystem in a number of DAOs, and also at Tally, the on-chain governance front end. And we're thinking a lot about account abstraction. I'm thinking a lot about account abstraction, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say. So today we have Luke Youngblood of Moonwell. We have Carl Fluke of Base. Welcome. And then we also have Carlos Reyes and Brent Traut from Rainmaker. We're going to hear what all those places do and their relation to account abstraction, as well as some sort of high level thoughts on the subject and its future and past. Maybe I'll kick it off with Luke. Can you intro what project are you at? What do you do at that project? And we'll get into account abstraction in just a bit.
Good morning, Cool Horse Girl. It's great to be here. So, my name is Luke. I'm a founding contributor to Moonwell, and Moonwell is a decentralized lending and borrowing protocol on Base, and you can lend and borrow digital assets. So, think things like Ethereum, USD coin. You can supply and borrow. Also, we're really proud in our community to have recently launched all three of the top liquid staking tokens, including CBETH, Staked ETH, and just a few days ago, Rocket Pool ETH. So very excited to be the first lending protocol on Base to support all three native liquid staking tokens. And we were there on day one on Base, and it's been super exciting to build alongside the Base community. So it's great to be here, and I'm excited to talk about account abstraction. Thanks.
Woohoo, welcome, Luke. Maybe I'll throw it to you, Carl, first. What do you do at Base?
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. I am Carl Fluke. I am a developer relations here at Base. Been working on it for a little like 13 months now. Kind of was a ragtag start of showing we could operate in L2, and then we're now a core contributor to the OP stack. And then importantly to this, I've been working on kind of getting the account abstraction ecosystem on Base a little more built up for the past 3 months now. So a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all.
Sweet. Finally, feel free to hop in, our Rainmaker fellows. Maybe Carlos, I'll throw it to you since I saw your little heart there.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm Carlos. I'm one of the co-founders of Rainmaker, and Rainmaker is an account abstraction wallet and more importantly, DeFi super app. And so we are the first account abstraction wallet to actually sponsor all gas fees, which is pretty cool. And quick fun fact about us, we're very early to the space. We actually sent the first user op ever on the Ethereum network, which I think is pretty sweet. Before this, I was a long time DeFi degen, and I decided to make the jump into the space when I saw that account abstraction was going live. And so Brent and I have been working on Rainmaker since the beginning of this year, actually, and we've made so much progress and super excited. So thanks.
I suppose last but not least, hello everyone. I'm Brent. I am Carlos's better half on the Rainmaker wallet. Yeah, I've been in the tech world for basically ever, but got sucked into crypto, I don't know, several years ago. I was working at a couple of different projects, decentralized exchange for a while, and Carlos sold me on the vision of what Rainmaker could be. And that was about a year ago, almost to date. And the rest is history. It's been really exciting working on Rainmaker, learning about account abstraction ourselves, especially pretty early on in the game, and now building what we think is like a fantastic product that really leverages the new technology. So excited to be here, excited to talk about both our product, our partnerships, and all of the technology underneath it.
Yeah, awesome. We have sort of a unique squad here of like builders, users, facilitators of account abstraction. So I'm excited, especially to get all the perspectives. Maybe let's kick off. Brent, can you explain, like M5, the concept of account abstraction? I think we know a little bit, right? It makes on-chain activities more intuitive, sort of akin to just like logging in, as sort of maybe my parents would would think about doing, logging into Twitter with a username and password. I like that example. Can you break that down? What is account abstraction?
Sure, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about MPC a little bit later too, and that's another aspect that allows you to kind of log in with more of a Web 2.0 standpoint. But there's a whole bunch of parts to account abstraction, and I'll do my best. It's also pretty technical, and I'm definitely going to gloss over some stuff here too. So bear with me, but we are pretty excited to use each of its tools or many of its tools in order to make Rainmaker better. So I'll do my best here. Usually, the way that I explain account abstraction to people is to first explain what interacting with the blockchain is like without it. And as many folks know, it's a pretty manual process. You set up a wallet, and then with that wallet, you make transactions one at a time, and you have to pay some gas. If you're on mainnet, then you're paying ETH. And each chain has its own native token, but if I say want to send USDC to Carlos, then I would create a transaction in, I don't know, MetaMask or something like that. And I would say, I would like to send this USDC, and I would pay a little bit of ETH for that and send it off. That example's relatively easy, straightforward. But then it starts to get a little bit more complicated if I say I want to swap my USDC for DAI on some exchange. Because first I have to create some sort of allowance or approval in order for that exchange to spend my USDC so that I could get some other token in return. So that's one transaction. And then I have to pay some ETH for that transaction. And then I have to do the actual swap. So that's another transaction. And I have to pay a little bit more ETH for that. And unfortunately, you have to do those as kind of like two different operations. And it already starts to get a little bit cumbersome there. And then if you want to do some really complex stuff on the blockchain, like you actually want to send your tokens around to different places, you want to bridge, you actually want to invest in different strategies, you want to pull rewards on those strategies, compound your rewards, swap it back, get whatever your rewards back into those pools. Like each one of those steps, while they are relatively straightforward, it just starts to add up. And there's a lot of different things that you have to do. So that's kind of like the old world. And that was one of the problems that really spoke to me and Carlos when we were kind of going through our DeFi degen phase as well. And part of why we were excited about Rainmaker is account abstraction allows us to kind of smooth over that whole manual process. And it does that through two different pieces. The first piece is called a bundler. And that is something that allows you to take multiple transactions and squish them together. And it executes all those transactions at the same time, or rather it executes them sequentially still, but atomically. And what that means is like, if it starts and finishes, it does all of those things. And so I can do that token approval and that exchange all at the same time on the DEX. I don't have to click two buttons. I don't have to wait for two different things. And I don't have to pay twice. It just all happens at once. So that's the bundler. Does some more things, but effectively how we use it at Rainmaker is just making it so that if you want to invest in a particular strategy, you click one button and you're good to go. And then the other thing, and this is super exciting for us as well, especially when you're talking about, lowering the stakes for non-crypto native people, is the other aspect of account abstraction that we leverage a lot is called the paymaster. And that is something that allows you to kick off a transaction on the blockchain without spending the native token yourself. And so what you can do is you can leverage different smart contracts or different services, or depending on how the service is set up, it's actually possible for those services or those contracts to pay your gas on your behalf. And that's something that we're really proud to offer to our users at Rainmaker as well. So when you come to Rainmaker and you want to put some money in Moonwell pool, you don't have to bring your own ETH. You can just bring whatever token that you want and click a button and it goes. And Rainmaker is actually footing the bill for that gas. And we can do that because paymasters exist. There's other ways that you can leverage that as well. You could negotiate with a service to pay the gas fees in a different token if that's how that particular service would operate. or you can have a quota on how many transactions can happen before it starts charging you, or you can do a bunch of different things like that too. But the long and short of it is you can actually put logic behind who's paying the gas and when it's paid, whereas traditionally you always had to have those tokens in your wallet yourself. So I guess through the use of those, and again, like I said, I'm kind of glossing over some of the other power of account abstraction too, but those are the main two things. And leveraging those, you can actually create a really slick, what I like to call a Web 2.0 experience, but on Web 3.0, in DeFi, in the whole new blockchain ecosystem. So really powerful stuff. There's a lot of potential still coming too, but we think that we've created something pretty cool with account abstraction in Rainmaker.
That's a great high-level overview. I think a lot about consumer crypto and trying to explain things, like I say, to my as Thanksgiving's coming up, my parents and grandparents and somewhat older family members. And these things like key management and gas fees and transaction automation are going to be so key for their onboarding to crypto. And account abstraction is absolutely necessary before, my grandma gets gets onboarded. I want to talk about how this looks in practice. Maybe, Carl, I'll start with you. We could see account abstraction, right, in multi-call. How does that make DeFi easier for end users in actual practice from start to finish?
Yeah, I think Brent kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think one of the biggest hurdles for me as an end user was the first time like doing like a yearn position was that you had to approve token A, you had to approve token B, then you had to actually put those tokens into the liquidity pool, and then maybe you had to stake that to get your yield. And I think just for the average end user, doing all four of those steps individually, approving each one, paying for the gas for each one, is just a massive hurdle, and your fall off rate can be decently high. So with that multi-call kind of that Brent described, I can make all of those user operations be one end user experience. And that makes it so that like the normal person could come in and actually be able to enter these positions. Just the barrier to entry will be drastically less. I think additionally, just to tease out kind of the paymaster part, I think both from the chain level and from a DeFi protocol level, having that paymaster pay for that gas makes it so you can incentivize the actions you want so that that user on top of doing one interaction to create your DeFi position could also just be a gasless experience. So the way I think about that is like when I go shop on Amazon, I'm not paying to like browse all the products available to me. They're more or less like paying for the delivery fee for me, and now some of these account abstraction 4337 wallet concepts kind of make it so that DEXs as a business can build that into their revenue plan and just make that user experience much more approachable.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for DeFi users, especially. I remember also first joining and having that massive barrier to entry, even being somewhat familiar with crypto. Maybe let's talk about, before we get into the weeds, like how does Rainmaker leverage account abstraction using Moonwell strategies? I'll leave that one to any of you guys, Luke, Brent, Carlos.
Sure, I can take this one because I haven't spoken as much. Yeah, so it's actually building on what Brent says. I think one of the things that's really awesome about what we do with Rainmaker is that we kind of cut out a lot of these middle steps if you're trying to really easily, interact with Moonwell. So, for example, if you have Rainmaker, we just have we have all of the Moonwell pools available directly embedded into our app. So we've kind of flipped the model in a lot of cases where, rather than going to the DApp website with your wallet, that DApp website and all of their, offerings are actually offered embedded into the wallet, which we think is really cool. And so I'll kind of explain how this works. So basically, we will make direct calls to the smart contract. And like Brent says, we use these bundles to say, hey, like, you want to deposit, let's say, into the USDC lending pool, but right now I have DAI, for example. What we'll do with a bundle there is we'll say, okay, cool. First, we're going to swap the DAI automatically to USDC if you've chosen that. We're going to do the approval for that first. So that's 2 transactions. Then we're going to say, okay, next we're going to approve USDC spend. in the Moonwell pool. Then we're going to actually create the transaction to deposit the USDC. So that's about 4 separate transactions that you would have had to do individually if you're using, MetaMask or something. We take those, we put these into the bundler, and effectively this is actually just a multi-call under the hood. And then we'll commit all of that on chain atomically. So what was previously 4 different steps and 4 different transactions is actually just one. And so I think it's really awesome to see how, we've kind of smoothed over that experience of, quickly entering or exiting a Moonwell pool. And then on top of it all, we also sponsor the gas for that action. So just making it a super, super slick Web 2 style experience.
That's sick. Yeah, the Web 2 stuff, I remember, like, during the bull market, right, years ago, it was so much like, Web 2's in the past, Web 3, like, forget all this stuff, and now we're sort of backtracking a bit to be like, there's value in a lot of these Web 2 things, especially for onboarding these next billion users, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, let's move on. I want to talk about UX, accessibility, and security. I'll leave this one open to everyone. The first one, how can account abstraction help to bridge the gap between this user-friendly experience of CeFi and the decentralized ethos of DeFi? I'll give an example that first, like my my friend who was trying to get into DeFi, like forgot her ledger code, and that is just a massive issue, right? She's like, how is there no customer support to just give me my code? And I'm like, well, it's not CeFi, right? We have this decentralized ethos that provides a lot of benefits, but also has these drawbacks that right now we're sort of seeing is a big barrier to consumer crypto, right?
Yeah, I could jump in here and I'll talk about just in general how account abstraction enables that. But I also want to hear from Rainmaker and how you specifically enable this feature because I think it's a really powerful, feature to help users, avoid these catastrophic mistakes and also to improve security in general. But when you think about an account abstraction wallet, a smart contract wallet, you can attach multiple different keys or private keys to that wallet. And so basically you might start out with something as simple as a MetaMask key that is used to sign, or you might even use, a private key stored on your mobile device. But later on, the key enabler here is that it allows us to swap that key for a different key in the future, which is really nice because if your wallet is ever compromised, you can rotate your key without having to worry about, losing all the funds and migrating all those tokens to a new wallet. So if anyone has ever experienced, an account compromise before, it's a pretty devastating experience because typically your account is drained of all your tokens. With the smart contract wallet, you can rotate that key in the future. So maybe you're using when you first start your user journey, your experience, maybe you're using a Web 2 authentication mechanism like Google Auth or something like that. But then you get more sophisticated and maybe you have a more advanced wallet like Coinbase Wallet on your phone. And in the future, you can rotate that key to Coinbase Wallet or to some other wallet. And that's a really powerful security feature. And it also gives you the capability of sort of upgrading your account in the future and not being locked into like a single wallet provider. I'd love to hear from the Rainmaker folks as to how you specifically enable things like key rotation, though.
Yeah, let me jump in here. And I kind of wanted to build on what you were saying too, because key rotation is a big feature of it. But turns out it's not just an or, it's not just that you can use one method to authenticate or another method and switch between those over time. One of the things that we actually have in development right now, and it's not out yet, but we're really excited to bring this to our users sometime in the future is the ability to kind of hand roll your own authentication. And that might mean that you're going to use multiple forms of authentication too. So a lot of people are already used to kind of the multi-sig style of authentication. And that means something kind of specific today, but you can kind of think about it more like there's just different ways to authenticate. Maybe an email and password would be one way to authenticate. Or maybe signing something with a particular wallet is another way, or maybe providing an authenticator code or a one-time password to your phone number being texted to you or something like that. All of these are like reasonable methods in order to prove that you are who you are or that you have some authorization to do something. But what's really powerful, both enabled by account abstraction and by some forms of MPC, which I can talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute, through the use of all of these things, you can actually build up and you can say, I'm actually, for my account, because I have something sensitive in my wallet, I want to force that I provide at least 2 of these 4 different methods that I've set up. And so it's not just if my password is compromised, I lose my entire account. It's more like, oh, I have to provide my password and I need to sign something with this other wallet that I own or something like that. Now it creates a lot more security, but it's not that much more difficult for a user because the user really gets to kind of pick what sort of authentication method that they want to bring to the table. So it's super powerful and super customizable at the same time, and also allows people to kind of progressively grow their security model. So the first person who comes to the service can just sign up with the most basic thing. But as soon as they start putting real value in their wallet, they might think twice and they might think, not only do they want to rotate their password, but they want to start adding more factors to their security over time too. Again, it's kind of akin to Web 2.0, where you can just on a lot of services, just add 2-factor auth or something like that later on. But funny enough, with Rainmaker, we already like to joke that we have 4-factor auth. And that's because we are leveraging some of these other components in order to provide security to your account. And one of the other things that I wanted to touch on while I've got the floor then is just this notion of MPC, and that stands for multi-party computation. Big words that basically mean you can take your password and you can break it into pieces. And one of the exciting parts about this as well is it's not only a better security model for you in the sense that your password or you gain extra security by spreading it across those different things. But another thing that you're actually doing is you're being a little bit more defensive against the services that you're actually using to leverage those passwords or to store those passwords as well. So let me give you an example. Like, let's say I want to use a wallet that uses social authentication. I want to sign into my wallet just with a Google OAuth or something like that. That's great. I can sign in. It's really ergonomic for me as a user. Great UX, feels like Web 2.0. It's very familiar, right? But if I'm only using Google as a login to my wallet and my Google account becomes compromised, then that's a major problem. And maybe this is a bad example because Google's not going anywhere, but maybe instead of Google, it was some smaller company and that company goes out of business. Maybe my account wasn't compromised, but it might as well have been because now I'm locked out because that company went out of business and I no longer have access to it. But if you take your password and you split it into a bunch of different pieces, then your password can actually be accessed through the means of those different services. And especially with MPC, you can set it up so that you don't need all of the pieces to recover your password. You only need some critical mass of them, kind of like a multi-sig. That means that even if one of those services go down, or even if another one of those services is compromised, you can still feel comfortable that your whole password isn't lost and that you can still recreate it using the other pieces. And so this is something that we're really excited to bring to Rainmaker coming soon, where you'll be able to log in not only with your email address, but also with your phone, also with signatures from other wallets, and also with a recovery key that only ever lives on your device. And Rainmaker never actually gets access to that or anything. So ultimately, what remains here is that you have control over your wallet. It's still fully self-custodied. It's fully decentralized. And yet you still get to bring the authentication model that you want. So powerful stuff, all enabled by account abstraction, by MPC, and really creates a better UX in this space.
Okay, seriously, that is so cool. I'm learning so much about Rainmaker. I love when I go on these and I hear about a project that's I'm genuinely wow, that's so sweet. I'm excited. This one's coming to Thanksgiving with me for sure. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll pass it to you, Carl. Are there any dApps in the base ecosystem that have caught your attention that are using account abstraction in sort of a creative, novel way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when Base launched, probably our biggest app was Friend.tech, which was a kind of a social, you could buy, sell, trade shares of our keys of your friends. And I think the big difference that did was that it was a social login. It just managed the wallet infrastructure for you. It felt like a Web 2 experience. I didn't have to go set up a seed phrase. So that was exciting. And we've seen that come into other SocialFi and GameFi systems. So those ones are public. There are quite a few still in kind of stealth mode that I'm excited about that are starting to leverage 4337. So some of them are adding like plugins or modules to the smart contract wallet where they can both add additional protection and they can also help you kind of do like automated transactions. So examples of that is one app wants to make it so that purposefully, once you spend more than like $500 in a day, they want you to have to do additional approvals to spend more. So the main reason for this is that if an account ever actually gets hijacked, they could say like, hey, for every day you would at max lose some amount of money. So this is great from like even if the worst case scenario, you won't just have that wallet completely drained. So that's a net improvement. The other exciting one that I've seen was kind of like a payments app where they wanted to make it easier for people to be able to save in like different vaults. So if I know I want to save, $3,000 for vacation in June next year, I can actually just add a module to my smart account and say that I need to save like on every transaction, maybe I save 1%. And then as I'm falling behind, as I get closer to that vacation, maybe it ups that to 4%. So just kind of making it so the smart account can have more smart rules to help me manage my finances. I'm really looking forward to seeing like how that gets rolled out into the broader ecosystem.
And if I could jump in here, in the Moonwell community, we've been experimenting with a lot of prototypes of modules. I feel like it's a very powerful feature that hopefully will come to see the light of day. But one of the ways that many people are using modules in DeFi applications is you can attach a module up to your smart account or your account abstraction wallet, and that module can basically take privileged actions on your behalf, and you can control what those are. So, for example, um, anyone can claim rewards on behalf of a user in the Moonwell protocol, which basically takes all the rewards that they're entitled to and gives them back to their wallet. And by connecting a module to a smart account or the account abstraction wallet, you can actually automate, the compounding of rewards, and you can automate minting. So, for example, you give this module permission to mint new tokens on your behalf, meaning they can deposit into the Moonwell protocol. So now, once someone can claim rewards on your behalf, and then they can also compound those rewards for you. And you can set maybe a threshold where I only want this to happen every 24 hours. And so when you start to put all of this together, what you can end up creating is basically a fully automated DeFi experience where you no longer have to log in regularly and claim your rewards to compound your positions. You can actually, incentivize others on the network to do it for you, either a paymaster or some type of automated system. And so it's really powerful if you think about, I've been a DeFi degen for years, and I think many of us on this Twitter space have been. We all probably have like a daily routine we follow where we log in and compound our positions. And just being able to automate that in a safe way where I don't have to give access to my private key to someone is really powerful. And I think we're going to see more and more of those. And Rainmaker obviously does this for you, but there's many other opportunities for modules to people to kind of attach that up to the smart account and automate all the things you might do on Web3 apps on a daily basis.
I think if I can jump in here for a second, this is a place that I'm really excited about, actually, just in general, and it's security with these modules. Because let's say that you're in some type of liquidity pool or some type of staking position. Say for a staking position, you can basically, hook up to some cron job that says like, hey, like one thing to monitor for is make sure that the TVL of this pool doesn't drop below a certain threshold, because that could be an indicator that, something is happening to the pool. Like, maybe there's an attack or it's being drained or something. And you can actually set these automations to do that on your behalf in the case of some events. So I'm excited to see a lot more if this then that type of stuff come specifically for risk management in DeFi. And I have a feeling that somebody is going to build an entire business just around, these risk automation modules. And that's pretty huge when you think about DeFi as kind of these financial Legos. That's going to be a huge thing to kind of bolster the bolster the security that end users have. And also, the added benefit is that it's a much better look for our industry, which, has had its share of hacks and scams and problems. And so I'm really excited to see that become a lot more robust.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I wanted to mention some of these modules that I've seen are really compelling. Like you were mentioning, like the security automation. And, I think both of us know a few companies building in this space that are pretty impressive, like Definitive, for example. But, for example, they can monitor things like what if you want to make sure that the peg on the stable coin that you're investing in, the pool you're invested in, never goes below 99.5 cents on the dollar? And being able to automate that peg and make sure that it, maintains that one-to-one status, and then automatically exiting your position if it ever drops below 99.5%, that's pretty killer. And it's just a security feature we haven't had in DeFi to date. And, last year when, USDC and DAI both depegged for a weekend during the banking collapses, that was a pretty scary experience for everyone. And wouldn't it have been nice to have automation to kind of protect our positions in that scenario?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like this idea of account abstraction as not just like easing like UX, but also a huge security feature that's totally necessary for onboarding those next billion users. Speaking of, Carl, I'll pass this one to you. How big of a role do you see account abstraction playing in Base's goal of doing that, onboarding the next billion users?
Yeah, so kind of one of the theses of Base is just that on-chain is the next online. And so far, Coinbase has 120 million KYC users, and realistically, like less than 10% of them are on chain today. So we do a lot of experiments about how can we ease that gap from going from the central exchange to a non-custodial wallet, and get users actually on chain, doing transactions and being part of the community. So account abstraction in general, I think definitely breaks down that barrier as far as setting up a wallet and getting them to being able to actually do things on chain. I think Onchain Summer, which was our August event for 30 days, did a good job of this, of giving people an event every day to go do on chain. And so I think seeing account abstraction when we do that next year kind of be like a base primitive that we expect a lot of these projects to use will help make that funnel conversion even higher. So I'm excited to see how far 4.3.7 has come since it came out in March, and I think like by next March it's going to be even more ready for end users to be able to go from zero to being in the community.
Yeah, I can see the really advancements coming by the day, which is sweet. Want to stay future focused here. Luke, any ways you can think of that DeFi applications can potentially use account abstraction to enhance platforms, right? You talked a lot about Moonwell in past spaces about enhancing this UX, trying to onboard users, expanding languages, for example. It seems like account abstraction is just another part of that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a trend of apps that do a couple things. First of all, they're either going to implement a paymaster similar to what we've been talking about earlier to pay for the common transactions that their users want to make so that they don't have to get gas tokens. Anyone that is bridged to a new L2 like Base, you always experience that I've got to get some ETH so I can do my transactions. And it's really inexpensive on layer twos like Base, which is great, but there's still that barrier to entry. So first of all, just implementing a paymaster and being able to pay for your users' transactions on a daily basis is going to really unlock a lot of new usage for all the apps on Base and on other L2s. And then I think that as we think about ways we can improve the user experience for our users, I really like the examples of, first of all, the batching of transactions using multi-call, making that just a single click for complex automated strategies is really key unlock, and it can benefit all the DeFi apps on Base, not just lending protocols like Moonwell, but also DEXs and other DeFi applications, stablecoin vaults, CDPs, things like that. And then the other thing that I like are, some of the ways that we can basically create these almost like a virtuous system of bounties. So you could think of like, let's say there's an application that's more of a public good that doesn't necessarily have a profit motive. And so they may not want to set up a paymaster and fund it because maybe they don't have a lot of a lot of funds to actually put in the paymaster. So they can create bounties where, let's say, they let other users on the network actually perform automated operations on behalf of users that have account abstraction wallets, and then they get a small percentage of that transaction fee. So we can actually create these public good systems that are autonomous, that just continue to operate, where basically the goodwill of people that are always online and always and willing to automate transactions on behalf of other users in the ecosystem can kind of create this public good that makes it free for normal people to use, while also compensating the people that automate everything and run the paymasters and things like that. So I think that's going to be a really key unlock for a lot of applications that want to become more autonomous and make the experience really, really easy for new users to adopt.
Sweet. And then, yeah, Rainmaker, guys, how do you make novel use of Moonwell?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Brent wanted to take this or me. Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the, aside from the obvious of, we do sponsor transactions, we do bundle together a lot of transactions, so it's super easy. And we do also sponsor gas on, all transactions as well, aside from those three things, which are, I think, already pretty sweet. The other thing that we do is we work with another company called Definitive, who they're focused on these DeFi automations, excuse me, these DeFi automations that Luke was talking about earlier. And we offer those automations directly integrated with Moonwell. And so, what that does, if you're kind of an end user interacting with Moonwell via Rainmaker, is one, it's highly yield optimized. I won't go into too much detail about how that works, but effectively, what is going on behind the scenes is that there's a lot of lend borrow arbitrage across different protocols. And ultimately, the yielding happens on Moonwell. So you're getting super optimized yield. But then at the same time, these vaults are highly guarded against any type of like issue that might happen with underlying vault, or if there's significant price movement. You kind of have this automatic unwinding and rewinding of positions to enhance security and automate yield as much as possible. So that's kind of the other thing that's layered on top of all the innovation that we kind of use account abstraction for.
And if I could jump in here a little bit, I wanted to talk about some of the strategies that Definitive is working on. They're really powerful. So if anyone has been around during the 2021 summer of DeFi, the bull run back then, there were a lot of DeFi applications that were really more like Ponzi games. If you remember Olympus DAO, Ohm, and all the forks, they're really Ponzi games where basically people were, if you got in early, you got rich, and if you got in late, you got wrecked. And it wasn't a really beneficial experience for everyone overall. And I think that what we're seeing now in DeFi with the advent of liquid staking tokens that actually provide real yield based on the staking rewards of underlying Ethereum, and other things like on-chain yield or on-chain real-world assets, we're now seeing a new wave of DeFi that allows people to actually earn real yield that isn't based on Ponzi games. And in order to actually get the most value out of that, it really helps to automate strategies if you're using leverage. So, for example, if you could get 3 to 4% staking ETH and you could leverage that 5, 6, 7x, now you could actually make 10, 15% staking ETH. But you need automation because it's very complex to set up that leveraged position. And you also want to be able to monitor the risk of that position. And you want to make sure that you're not going to be liquidated or nothing bad is going to happen. And so being able to automate that actually gives us the opportunity in the DeFi community to actually offer users a real yield that's not based on Ponzi games now. And actually, it's quite beneficial for the entire ecosystem because it helps grow the amount of ETH staked, and it's a net win for both users and for protocols and layer ones and layer twos. And that's pretty exciting to me. I think that we're going to see more and more of those. Another thing you mentioned, the interest rate arbitrage. For example, if I can earn 6% on USDC and it only costs me 3% to borrow it on another lending protocol, then that can be automated. And if the interest rate fluctuates, it can also unwind that position in a safe way. So I think there's a lot of opportunity These are the tools that traditional finance, TradFi, has had for decades, and DeFi is now making them accessible to end users. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. That is so exciting, the, like, continued automation of the space over time. I even remember, like, 5 years ago trying to execute some of these strategies that were definitely above my my pay grade, right? And it being so difficult now with account abstraction, it's easier and easier by the day. I'll second that account abstraction is absolutely a net win for both users and protocols. Basically, I'll summarize a few things real quick and then we'll wrap us up here. We've done about 45 minutes of some chatting re account abstraction. So, account abstraction, the ability to separate control of users' funds from the execution of smart contracts on its most basic level, among a number of other things. It's not just about improving UX, right, but also improving security and leveraging this to automate strategies in DeFi that we're seeing in Moonwell. I'll ask each of you guys for some final thoughts and then where to find more info about your projects. Maybe I'll start with you, Carl, then we'll go Carlos, Brent, and Luke. Finish us off.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you all for the conversation. So Base's main website is base.org. I am here mostly for developer relations. So if anybody is building or wants to join our partner ecosystem, just do an introduction in our Discord, and it'd be a pleasure to work with you all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I guess that leaves me next. Yeah, so my final thoughts on kind of account abstraction here. I think this is the tech. I've kind of devoted my entire life to it, but I think this is the tech that's going to bring crypto to the masses. I think the hardest thing for me getting people into crypto is one, the technical complexity, and two, getting over the fact that every transaction had gas fees associated with it. So I'm very, very excited to kind of bring this forward with Rainmaker here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in here next, and yeah, just say thanks again. It's been super exciting having us. If you want to find more out about Rainmaker, you can find us at rainmaker.nyc. We also have the Discord, the Twitter. Carlos and I are both doxed. We build fast, but also we are very available. Very excited just to meet our users. So reach out and say hi however you'd like. As far as closing thoughts on account abstraction too, yeah, it's an honor being part of a podcast with a bunch of other builders in this space, in this cycle at this time. There are so many exciting projects going on just through the enablement of this tech, and it's always exciting being part of an ecosystem of people who really believe in that stuff too. So thanks for having us.
Thank you, Brent, Carlos, and Carl. It's been an honor to be in this space with you as well. To learn more about Moonwell, just go to moonwell.fi. I think we're super excited in the Moonwell community to be the Lego primitive or the base building block that a lot of these account abstraction wallets and strategies can be built on top of. And we want to just continue to bring the best collateral assets, the best liquidity to base, and grow the ecosystem together. Really excited to be a part of that, and looking forward to all of the great features you add in the future. And really appreciate you guys making it easy and accessible for the next billion users to onboard to crypto and DeFi. Yeah, couldn't be more pleased to be building alongside all of you. So thank you. Anyone that wants to join our community, just come to moonwell.fi, join our Discord, get involved in whatever way you can, and really appreciate having you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, guys. This was such an insightful conversation. I learned my fair share about account abstraction just as well. This will definitely be going on the loudspeaker at Thanksgiving for the family. Anyway, thank you guys so much for this. I'll echo one more time that a new market for Rocket Pool RETH has been activated on Moonwell just yesterday, right? So exciting stuff in the space all around. I'm so happy to talk to you guys, and I really appreciate all of our speakers' time. And thanks again to all of our attendees for listening in. We'll see you next time on Moonwell Radio episode 3. Bye, guys.